Hey guys, I'm Marcus Lap with the Indie Music Lab, and today we're going to talk about how to use Melodyne to tune your vocals. Plus, we're also going to do an A/B test and see if using Melodyne to tune your vocals sounds different than using a standard Autotune. Let's go. Okay, so let's hop into the session we're working with today. As always, my DAW of choice is Studio One, but you can follow along and it doesn't matter which DAW you're using. So let's jump right in. So first off, let's listen to the vocal on this track with no tuning on it whatsoever.
Last night I lost my phone in my apartment, and I didn't even bother to find it again.
I can feel you over there judging my pitch. So obviously, as you can hear, the pitch in this vocal take is far from perfect, and so in order to make this vocal sound more pleasing and easier to listen to, we need to apply some tuning to it. So let's add Melodyne to this vocal and we'll see what the effect is. Now, I'm not sure exactly how this works with other DAWs, but in Studio One, Melodyne is very nicely integrated into the software. So in Studio One, all you need to do is hit Command M on your keyboard and it opens up Melodyne and it has all the notes ready to go for you, like so. Well, I just lost it. Where did they go? I don't need damn website. I don't want to update it. Gosh. Okay, moving on. It's now that I'm in Melodyne, the first thing I'm going to do is select all of the notes, and then we're going to go up here, and I'm going to move both of these to 100%. So pitch center to 100%, and pitch drift, I'm also going to go 100%. Now, this is different than using an Autotune. If you were to do this and go 100% on like an Autotune, it would sound super robotic. But Melodyne is not an Autotune in that sense. Even if you go 100%, it'll make the vocal tuning much tighter, but it's not going to sound robotic. And so that's why that's where I'll start, is I'll go at 100%, because this is also like a poppy song, or it has pop elements to it, and so I want a tightly tuned vocal. Now let's listen to what we have.
Last night I lost my phone in my apartment, and I didn't even bother to find it again.
Okay, so it definitely sounds tighter and more in tune, right? But there are still a couple specific notes that have pitch problems. And so let's dive into those. Notice how when we applied the pitch correction in Melodyne, it messed with the flow of the pitch in a couple of the phrases.
And I didn't even bother.
Like on the word bother right here.
Didn't even bother.
Does not sound good at all, right? And the reason that it sounds so pitchy here, even after I applied Melodyne to this, is because my vocal take was so pitchy to begin with that Melodyne didn't know what to do with it. So, yeah. So now we just need to make specific edits on individual notes and individual words that I'm singing, just to make sure that everything is in tune and there's nothing distracting going on. So now to make these little edits and do this fine tuning on very specific notes and words, you need to very often split the audio.
Even bother.
So notice how this is one clip right here. We're gonna have to split this, because even if we just move this like this,
Didn't even bother.
it's not going to sound right. It's not getting any better. So we need to split this, and notice how these little squiggly lines right here that you see, that's the actual pitch that's being sung on a micro level. So you can follow that along, and that'll help inform you as to where you want to make the cut. So here, notice how this dips all the way down. So this is supposed to be two different notes, but Melodyne recognized it as one note. That's why it's one note right here. And so we need to split this. So I'm going to go to about where I think the best spot would be, where it seems like the note transition is in this word. So I'm going to go right here. As soon as you can see this double arrow with the line across the middle, if you double click it, it splits the clip right there. So that's really useful for you to know, because if you don't do that, you're going to run into all kinds of problems, because it's going to, even if you fix half of it, the other half is then going to be out of tune. So now let's see what we have here. So we're going from the F sharp to the G sharp in this with these notes. And so this probably want to be here somewhere. We're going to move this up here somewhere. Let's see how that sounds.
Didn't even bother.
Much closer, right? So let's move that. See what that.
Didn't even bother. Didn't even bother.
Yeah, so it's much better.
And I didn't even bother to find it again.
So yeah, be sure to utilize the split tool. Remember, again, in order to split any of these, you just need to hover over it near the top, and when this little symbol pops up, double click it and it splits it, and then you can make individual adjustments much better than you would on just the one note, especially if it's sliding between one note or the other like we just had happen here. So, all right, and I'm going to make another adjustment here. Notice how on the word apartment.
Last night I lost my phone in my apartment.
I want it to be in my apartment, but it's apartment. Melodyne tuned that straight up there. So again, so it's this note right here.
My apartment.
So I'm going to split it. Probably right here somewhere. And I'm going to move this down. That way we get apartment rather than apartment. So it slides down into that more smoothly.
My apartment.
Hear that? So these are the small edits that you'll most likely have to do if you have somewhat of a pitchy vocal take that you are working with, and you wouldn't most likely have to deal with this if you were going for a really tightly auto-tuned vocal, which we'll look at here in a second, because the auto-tune is going to do a much tighter tuning. It's not going to sound as natural, versus in Melodyne where you get more of that natural pitch correction. If your vocal tuning is pretty pitchy with the take, you're gonna run into some problems like this. If you have a pitchy vocal take and you still want that very natural sound, you'll most likely have to spend just a few extra minutes fine-tuning, maybe doing a couple cuts on a few of the words and notes, just to make sure that the vocal take sounds good, just to make sure it's not distracting in any part of the song. Alright, and before we get to the final part of the video, I think it's pretty amazing that you're still here and watching this far into the video, so I would love to give you a gift and help you out even more. So in the description below, I've got a link for a free guide. It's called a 5-step guide for producing wow factor indie music. In this guide, I share the 5 steps, the 5 phases that a standard production of mine will go through, and I tried to make it as helpful as I possibly could, so feel free to check that out. I think you'll find it really helpful and informative. Alright, back to the video. Okay, so now that we've looked at how Melodyne works, now let's compare that to a standard auto-tune. So I have the exact same track right here with an auto-tune on it. So I'm using Waves Tune real-time auto-tune, which is my go-to auto-tune plugin. I've got the speed, I've got it pretty tight. I got it at 8 milliseconds, note transition at 37. And I'm going to A-B this, and you'll get to hear the difference between the two.
Last night I lost my phone in my apartment, and I didn't even bother to find it again. These days we never talk, we lost connection. Can't reach her anymore. Can't reach her anymore. No.
Obviously that no at the end needs some pitch correction as well. This vocal take was so pitchy. Gosh. Melodyne didn't know what to do with that either. But yeah, when I listen to this, I definitely hear a difference. The autotune feels a little bit more crisp, a little bit more of that metallic-y kind of sound that you get with autotune. Melodyne, you don't really have that as much. You have a little bit more of a natural sound. And so it just depends on what you're going for. So let's say if you wanted a vocal sound that was more along the lines of the 1975, you would go for the Autotune. Versus if you wanted more of a retro indie sound like say Elton John, you would probably stick with the Melodyne. Now don't be afraid to use both. I often use both. Like I'll start out with Melodyne and I'll get everything really close and in tune, but then if I'm looking for a little bit more of that modern, James Blake or Bon Iver or the 1975 kind of vocal, that really tight vocal tuning effect, then I'll probably just slap an Autotune on there to get that sound. So it just depends on what you're looking for. As a rule of thumb, like I said, if you want more of a classic retro indie sound, I recommend using Melodyne and staying away from Autotune. But if you want more of a modern sound, go ahead, throw the Autotune on there, and you should be good to go. Alright, that's it for me today, guys. If you found this helpful, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you next time. See ya.